Okay. Assalamualaikum everyone. For those of you who are not familiar, my name is Amira. I am the Outreach Chair, and I'd like to welcome you all to the first ever Career Catalyst event hosted by the MSA. Before we begin, I want to give a short reminder. So, inshallah, I know a lot of us are going to begin the next chapter of our lives where we are faced with much uncertainty and doubt about where we will be post-grad. Many of us have gone down rabbit holes of applications trying to land just one job or internship. Throughout this process, it is really easy to become discouraged where we begin to question our own capabilities. I think it's important in setting one's intention when going about this process. I like to say finding a job is a full-time job in itself. Therefore, we spend a lot of time doing it. Setting one's intention and saying that I am spending my time doing this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can turn the time you spend doing so into an act of ibadah. Whether your intention be, I want to find a job so that I can provide for my family, or I want to find a job to make my parents happy, see me successful, or I want to find ways to obtain halal wealth. The list goes on, and making this intention can not only bring a bigger purpose to your job hunt, but can also bring more barakah blessings than there were before. I want to also mention an ayah in Surah Al-Zariyat, verse 58. It says, "Indeed, it is Allah who is the continual provider, the firm possessor of strength." Notably, I want to focus on the part where it states Allah is a continual provider or razaq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides His creation with an abundance of risk, sustenance, and that risk has already been decreed for us. Every single thing we obtain in this dunya has been written for us, including a prospective job offer. With that said, it is mentioned in Surah Al-Hajj, ayah 58, and indeed it is Allah who is the best of providers. Our Creator has written the best of provisions for us, given we do our part of putting in the effort to obtain our risk, so we should not worry. With that said, it is all just a matter of time when we will obtain it, inshallah. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the panelists. Oh yeah, you guys didn't introduce yourselves.
Okay. Assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Aisha. You want me to know?
No, you can just say your major and like your occupation right now.
Sure. I majored in undergrad in computer science, did my master's in computer science, and I'm a software engineer and co-founder of a startup.
Jonathan.
My name is Bishan, and I was a mechanical bachelor here, and I graduated 2 semesters ago, alhamdulillah, and I work as a quality test engineer.
My name is Basman Dahla. I graduated many years ago with a bachelor's and master's degree in electrical engineering from the University of Illinois, Urbana. And I've gone through several jobs at different companies. Started mostly in the wireless industry. Now I work for a small company in Elmhurst where we make touch screens. I'm the head of engineering there.
Assalamualaikum everyone, my name is Jawad. I went to actually DePaul and majored in information system many moons ago, like Brother Bassam. Information technology. I'm currently working for a company based out of San Jose. I'm director of engineering there, so our job is to actually manage the networks and back-end infrastructure for small to medium-sized customers.
And then just a brief overview of the event for today. The first half will be like a live Q&A by me, so I will be asking the panelists questions. And then we'll break for Usher, and then it'll be an open Q&A with all of you. So make sure if you have questions, keep them in mind. Okay, so start with the first question. I know you guys just introduced yourselves, but can you share an overview of your educational studies and career journey? So those of you who had a long career journey, you can expand upon where you started, where you are now, what you do for your work, and how you got there. So, good.
Sure, I can start. So I got my undergrad at University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, in computer science with a focus in algorithms and models of computation. So I really knew I wanted to do something like math related with my computer science degree. So I interned initially as a database administrator. A lot of my journey is figuring out what I don't like, and so I didn't enjoy that too much. And that was in insurance, and then I moved on to a full-time job as a software engineer. It was full stack for CAD software in the woodworking industry. didn't really like the industry, so now I went back for my master's, still at Urbana Champaign, and I'm also leading my own ed tech startup. Yeah.
I went to UIC here and I did my mechanical engineering bachelor's here. I never got an internship unfortunately, but alhamdulillah, last semester I graduated. I got an offer and I took that, and I'm a quality test engineer over there right now. We make switchboards, so pretty much that's all we do. I just quality check those all day.
So maybe I'll go back all the way to high school. In high school, I loved math and science. I didn't know really what to do with it. My uncle, who was a graduate of UIC also, he was a chemical engineer and a mechanical engineer. He did both. And he said, maybe you should look at electrical engineering because it's really hot right now. There's a lot going on. Energy, communications, there's just so many options. So I started as a physics major at U of I in Urbana, and felt my way around, and I decided, yes, I'll give electrical engineering a try. I had a really bad attitude coming into the university about literature. I used to think literature is such a waste of time. It's like, why do I want to spend hours trying to figure out what this clown was trying to say? Why didn't he just say it? Why didn't he just tell me? Why doesn't Shakespeare or any of these philosophers, why didn't they just say what it is that they wanted to say? It wasn't until into my college years that I discovered that they were actually smarter than probably everybody else. There's, we always used to have a joke in the early days at U of I before I discovered that the other people on the other side of Green Street were actually pretty smart. Those people throwing around the frisbees and the hacky sacks in the liberal arts college, I used to say, what a waste of time. These guys are just studying these little novels in their pockets, and here we were carrying 70 pounds of books. I don't think people carry books around anymore anyways, but back in those days we had books, lots of them, and they were very heavy, the math and science and the engineering books. So long story short to say that I did not appreciate how important being able to communicate and understand people and understanding concepts that were not concepts to be written in an equation or in some type of a diagram, but being able to communicate complex ideas and being able to do it concisely, and being able to understand people of different backgrounds, how important that was. So I did end up finishing my undergraduate in electrical engineering while debating strongly whether I should switch into philosophy, because although I thought Descartes was an absolute idiot who discovered that he existed because he was thinking about not existing, and the fact that he was thinking was what actually brought him to think that he existed. At the time I thought, I was like, what an idiot. This is what you came up with? You know, there's so many expressions in Arabic for it. But actually it was very profound. As I matured a little bit and started reading more on geography, the international conflicts, U of I was very rich, and I encourage you to explore these other classes in other areas. And UIC is very rich with people who are experts in studying international conflicts, studying communication, studying how to change the world, what problems need to be solved in the world, and developing passions so that you can choose a career based on a passion, based on a problem that you want to solve. And the sooner you build that passion, the sooner you will find excellence in what you can produce. So then I decided, after I finished my undergraduate degree, that I really don't know anything about electrical engineering. I had no confidence. So I decided to stay for a master's degree, and I did a master's degree, and I finally started gaining some confidence in what I knew. It was because I took a few summer jobs with some professors, getting some practical experience. And so I was building antennas. I didn't know what I wanted to do in electrical engineering. There's 50 different disciplines that you can choose in electrical engineering, just like every other profession. And so I started gravitating towards wireless, towards electromagnetics, because it was something that I had started experiencing when I was building and testing the antennas, and I started wondering about how signals really go from A to Z, from this place to the other place, and why some signals go farther than others, and why signals travel the way they travel. A real interest started developing, and so I finished my master's degree in antennas, antenna design, and wireless communications, and how I got my first job was through our careers office. Had it not been for the U of I career office, and I encourage you to use your career office here and lean on them, I wouldn't have had access and known about most of those companies. These days, of course, there's something called the internet that we didn't have at the time. It was just starting when I was finishing school, but it was just for fun use between students who knew how to use the Linux machines that nobody else knew how to use, or the Unix boxes, to just communicate with individual students who were on the same network. But now you have access. You should still utilize these campus recruitment groups. But they helped me land my first job. There were so many jobs available at the time with people looking who had wireless experience. Most of them were in the military, and I had no intention of going. There was one recruiter who called me on the phone and said, "All we make are missiles. Do you have a problem with that?" I was like, "Yes, I'm sorry, I will not be able to come work for you in making missiles." They were all looking for guidance systems, all the antennas and the wireless communications. But I finally found something at Motorola, and I started. My first job, it was in Chicago, my hometown. I spent the first 20 years of my career making base stations for cellular communications up to 4G, and then I left the group and I went to make phones for 4 years, and I went to make outdoor wireless equipment for internet service providers, backhauls between communication towers, and point-to-multipoint for other types of rural communications for people starting internet service providing businesses. And then I left that to go work for a company called Federal Signal down in the south suburbs, University Park, building out smart city applications using the products that I used to design and make for those years at Motorola. Now I was actually creating networks and creating solutions for municipalities to do smart city type of applications. Then I went to a startup finally for the first time in my career, 25 years after starting, which was a little bit of a challenge, but I went in there knowing that it was going to be a challenge, that I have to open up my mind. I got to start moving a little faster. We're going to have to break some process. We're not going to use the old process that I had at Motorola. It was a great experience. We were making products to help workers become safe, but I was still leaning on my wireless experience, but on my product development experience more than anything else. And then I'm at where I'm at now. For the last year, I'm the Chief Technology Officer at UICO, very small company. We make touch screens. And so it's been a really fun ride, but every job is a little different. Every job has got different set of challenges, and communication and being able to articulate the problems that you're trying to solve, identifying them clearly, communicating with others, being an honest broker all the time with your partners, with your suppliers. There's so many facets to a job, and not all of them are just solving technical problems, but that's where I'm at today.
All right, so not as elaborate as my predecessor, but when I was growing up, I wanted to be a pilot, and then I got into high school. I really good at math and accounting, so I went in as an accounting major, and then friends with most of the my friends were all Muslims, the Desi crowd. They were all in IT. So first few years when we were taking electives and histories and English and all the other classes, we were together. But then when it comes to the sophomore and senior years, we all split it and went into our major. So I kind of felt lonely in accounting. Then looked it up some numbers, and at that time, if you graduate with accounting major, you make about somewhere in 30,000, and if you graduate in IT, you make it somewhere in 50s. So honestly, my motivation was to make money. if I look back and advise you on that, I would have taken a different path. But find your passion, do the best, what you like to do, and be the best at it. Yeah, my manager, current manager actually, his dad used to say, if you wanted to be a plumber, fine, be the best plumber that out there. From that switch from IT perspective, then I got into the networking infrastructure. There was one exam called CCNA. I took that exam. Then AT&T hired me, and I was at that time I was also doing my bachelor along with a full-time position that I had with AT&T. Then .com happened, and I got laid off from AT&T, and I finished my undergrad in 2002. Very rough time. There's not much available. For 6 months or 7 months, recently married, a kid on the way, and I don't have a job. So out of the nowhere, the other thing I got hired by IBM right after my graduation from DePaul through a reference. I knew someone in my mustard circle that worked for IBM at that time. He referred my resume to the hiring manager, and the hiring manager actually hired me. So 80 and 90% of the jobs in my market are actually network-based. Yes, job boards help, career console, they do help, but majority of your jobs are fulfilled even before they get to that point. There's many reasons why that happens. Some companies do not like to pay the recruiting fees, and job board, when you post a job, it costs money. So they rather fulfill it through the LinkedIn or through other means that are cheaper. So I would suggest you two guys to build up your network among your peers, among your, in massages, go, volunteer. That build your network, right? So that's one of the advice I will give you. So after IBM, I went to Accenture. The most painstaking and toughest interview that I have ever given. They flew me into New York. From Chicago to New York, I went in from room to room to room to room. The whole process, I went in like 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I came out like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock with one lunch break. From one manager to the other manager to the other manager, and then after a written assessment. I gave up on it. I said, I'm not gonna get it. Before even I landed in Chicago, I got a call that I was one of the few that are selected. So in Accenture, I did not like the traveling aspect of it, very cutthroat, competition. You have to be top 5% to be considered good. So that place was not for me. So I left Accenture, went in Walgreens. It's a pharmacy company, had a few thousand stores, about 8,000 to 10,000 stores. Developed their infrastructure, the back end, the experience that I have with IBM, Accenture. They helped me a lot in that position to kind of build their infrastructure. I did that for 8 years. Loved it. I got up to maybe a architecture level. I became an architect there. But out of the blue, there's a brother from Syria calls me, and I'm currently working for them. Thank you. He said, I have this proposition for you. I need some help. You have the expertise. And if you come join me, then we will both have a decent kind of earnings. So I left a corporate, you can say that for 100, top 100 companies to a no-name company. But at that time, I have built up my career. I have 10, 12 years of experience at my hand. I was not scared to make risk because I knew that the market and the skill that I have nothing to lose. And plus, I had the conversation that I had with the owner, helped me, make that decision even quicker that this is a Muslim brother looking for some help, and I can come in and can help him. And so far, I can tell you this was probably the best decision of my life as far as the career were concerned. Small company, I had to do a lot of things, build a lot of, wear a lot of hats, but I had the autonomy. I can do whatever, and that's what I like about this position. In Walgreens, I was, yes, I was an architect, but I had to go through so many hoops to get certain things done. But here, I build a team from scratch. It's my team. It's I know the pros and cons. I have trained them. So I've been with them for 8 years. It's been a hell of a ride so far, and would recommend anyone to to do it in a heartbeat. And I would do it in a heartbeat as well. So that's the story of my life so far.
Very nice. Thank you for the insightful answers. We're going to go on to our next question. So what skills do you all consider essential for success in your industry, and how did you obtain these skills? We can start from.
All right, I'll start.
Okay.
So the skills, the specialization is very important. Certifications, especially in IT, that puts you on a different level than someone. If I'm hiring, I'm looking at resumes. I look at the experiences. I look at the degree, but I also look at the certifications. That puts you apart from other candidates. So I do recommend you to look into these certifications. They do give you some edge over other candidates. There's many in my field, AWS, there is Cisco, there's many, but I would say that find where your passion is, figure that out, what you want to do, and just, do those certifications, and that's probably my first job at AT&T. I most likely got it because of that certification that I got. At that time, there were not that many certified people available in the market. I just studied off the book, gave the exam, and alhamdulillah passed it. Come to find out, some of the companies, these big vendors, they give incentives to the companies who hire people who have the certifications. So AT&T obviously were looking for their best interest, but I'm a big proponent of the certifications. They do help you, and you do gain notoriety of certain skills that you have proven that you have done something. And I do have a CCIE. That's the top level certification in collaboration. There's about less than 3,000 people in the world. So that does put you apart from when these people looking in, why they need to hire you.
And so, after my first 8 or so years as just being a developer, a hardware developer, I started managing teams, and the teams were getting bigger. Sometimes they got smaller. I went back to being an individual contributor at one point in time, but then I went back into management. And so I still keep my hands dirty. I always have my own projects running at the same time while I'm managing the teams and the different managers that work under me. So some of the skills early on that made a very big impact on my trajectory was focusing on becoming an expert in my area. So those first 5 to 8 years, up to 10 years, the focus that you put into your career to become the best that you can possibly be. And it means late hours, it means not looking at the clock and say, okay, it's 4:30, I'm leaving. You have to have a mission, you have to have a vision, you have to have a goal. If you are serious about having a career, if it's just a 9 to 5 where you're earning a salary, that's fine. But you have to make a decision for yourself. What is it that you want? Do you want a career? Do you want to change the world? Do you want to bring new products to the world? Do you want to change the Muslim world by by having our own company, by having a company that can do what a lot of companies are out there doing in the world? You know, you look around and you see what was created to kind of mimic the Silicon Valley that we have in the U.S. In other countries. And I can tell you from my experience when I was at Motorola, in some of these other countries, they had unfair advantages because the people, it was a political decision. So we need strength in our capabilities, we need strength in the expertise. Whatever area you go in, you want to be the best. You want to be the expert. So it starts from school. Focus on your studies, learn the material as well as you can, go above and beyond what's required. And when you start your career, focus, become the expert in that area, and always act with integrity. Always practice compassion towards other people. Always communicate very clearly. And you need to continue honing and growing those soft skills. They're extremely invaluable. And then once you get that level of expertise, other things start to open up in front of you. As the sister was saying as well with her career, I mean, things change. You discover what you like. You discover what you don't like. You discover what it is that you would rather be doing. Some people don't like to be in the environment of product development because of the crazy schedules. And some people would rather be in a test environment because it's sometimes it can be more structured and you have definitive plans. Sometimes people like 9 to 5s because all they want is a salary. There's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes people just want a very large salary. They want to grow their wealth very quickly. Nothing wrong with that. But you just have to decide what is it that you want, so that the choices you make and the focus that you put in grows the skills that you're looking for to get you what it is that you want.
Me, I don't think I can add more than anything on those guys. But I would just say the communication skills was pretty big for me, because you have to communicate yourself if you want something. And going off from what Bassem said, that you gotta be patient with it, because you gotta learn. Like right now, it's my first job, and of course I want all these things. I want a good salary. I want the best position in the company. But I have to be patient and I have to learn this quality criteria right now and just be the best at it. And of course, what he mentioned again, that Allah put you in that position and you gotta be the best of it. And if that's given to you, just be the best in it. And if next you're gonna go up, just be the best at the go up.
Yeah, so definitely what everybody was saying, I would say there's like soft skills and hard skills. So there's like the easy stuff that you can do, like I'm not saying certifications is easy, but it's on paper, you just do the work and it'll get done. You can do weak code, you can, code all you want, and then you'll get the technical interview. But, speaking on the other side of the table, I do technical recruiting for my own company, and something that really sticks out is definitely passion. You can memorize every answer. In terms of soft skills of what was the hardest thing about this project, but you can tell when someone is truly attached to a project and they've put a lot of time and effort and they've made an impact on somebody with the way that they answer. And so I would say definitely these projects are very important for your resume, especially if you're an undergrad. That is the thing that's gonna set you apart, because internship is probably what you guys are first gonna go for, and then a full-time. So these companies are looking for projects and stuff, and unfortunately a lot of times I get applications and it's just I made a Sudoku puzzle and it's great, I don't know how I'm supposed to assess how good of a person you are morally, and if I want to bring you on a team. They always talk about culture fit. It's very, very, very important that you fit with your culture, and it goes both ways. I always say that I'm interviewing you, but you're also interviewing the interviewer. You need to make sure you fit into that team as well, because that is the only way the team can keep, you know, being successful and like working collaboratively.
Sounds good. Okay, we'll try to move on to our next session. This one will focus on Aisha and Vigilante. You guys can answer this one. And the others you guys can add on as well. What would you say are the most difficult aspects of interviews?
I think for me, it's definitely when I just get very thrown off by a question that like I didn't see coming, and it's most of the time on the behavioral side than it is on the technical side, because you can code all you want, you'll know exactly what you're going to be getting into, and so I will say like the toughest part for me is also accepting the fact that I don't fit into some company, and so you can tell when you're like in the interview if this, you know, recruiter and this team is a fit for you, and it's really hard to step away and be like, this is not a fit for me. Like I didn't get along with the recruiter, and even if you do get the job, being able to say no if that's not something that's aligned with your career just because it is a job, that was really tough for me, especially because, you know, you just want your first job, you want to get into the industry, you want to get your foot in there, right, get your feet wet, but for me, it's like I learned the hard way of joining a team I was not happy with. You know, the paycheck makes you happy for a little bit, and then all of the negatives start adding up. Of the team is not great, and the manager is horrible, and you know, so many things add up. So, and I knew that in my interviews that I wasn't getting along with it, but I still just really wanted the experience. And it's easy for me to say that, right? Like I have experience now, and I can say that. And everybody does need their first job, but I will say, you know, right off the bat for the most part, like whether this company is good for you or not, and being able to like walk away from something that you even got it's very, very difficult for me at least, to be able to do that. In terms of kind of like technical stuff, not losing hope. I think I've done God knows how many interviews, and sometimes they go so amazing, and then you sit there and you don't get it, and you do a lot of like self-reflection of like, you know, but did I do something wrong? Is it, you know, I ask questions, is it because I'm a girl, is it because I'm a Muslim, you know, like you start going down that horrible rabbit hole, which you should never do, because you're all definitely amazing people, so I don't want you to ever do that, but sometimes it's just not the right fit, and sometimes, you know, they fill that role internally, but you still got an interview externally, and they have to do it, you know, and that sucks too, is that you're sometimes getting stringed along, and it can be amazing, and you can be the best interview ever, and you still won't get the job, and it has nothing to do with you, and that's something that you really just need to accept is like, that's just how life goes, and so whatever, you know, is in your nasiib, it's in your fate, is gonna happen, and I take that with me every time I like go into an interview.
I agree with that a lot, but I gave so many interviews just to get one job. And I know there's people with internships and projects and all of this before, like on their resumes. Even the kids I used to talk to, like in my classmate, they're like, oh dude, my dad got a firm, man, I'm just gonna go after and just work with him. And I'm like, yo, that's not fair, you know? I mean, I want my dad to have an engineering firm and just work for there. But alhamdulillah though, when I got my first job, I gave I think 15 interviews before that. But the way I looked at it was just a good experience to talking to people. And that's why before this we were talking about career fair. Like career fair is going on right now. It's such a good thing to go to career fair because you can get your nerves out there and just like talk to people just about everything. And these are people that see people like you all the time. So they know what you're saying. You're gonna try to impress them. They've probably seen that before. But you just gotta, and everyone says you gotta set apart, but you go to the same classes, you take the same projects. It's just, you gotta put that extra, I guess, personality. That's what sets you apart. And this last interview I gave that took me a job, hired me, they were like, after the interview, they were like, let's grab some beer. And I'm like, bro, I can't do that, I'm Muslim. And so I was like, that's when, I know it's like the wrong way to know, but that's when you know. They were like, oh, you can outside, you can hang outside of work. That's when you know like you're in, that kind of thing.
So it's hard, but just don't put yourself down because you never know if the next one's better. So, yeah.
Sorry, sister, could you repeat the question?
Yeah. So what would you say are the most difficult aspects of your interviews?
A lot of great things have been said already, so maybe I just add that staying calm and having faith that if it's for you, it's going to be for you. So staying exceptionally calm and staying honest, not saying anything that is not in character for you, not saying something that is not true, not on your experience in ways that are not sincere, or saying that you're an expert in something when you're not. Extremely important to that is not true, not expanding on your experience in ways that are not something when you're not. Extremely important to maintain that posture throughout the interview.
Yeah, so sometimes I feel like it is a catch-22. You need experience to get in, but you have to, so I would not lie, right? Definitely on the resume or not, whatever coursework, whatever internship you have taken, just do that. If you got to that far that they want to talk to you, they have seen something on your resume that interests them. For me, the difficult part was the behavioral type questions. When they're gauging you that you're the best fit for it, obviously they're going, if I'm looking in on the other side, if I want to hire someone, I wanted to make sure that I'm hiring someone that I can is worth my time, right? It's not going to be another job for you that I'm going to go through this process again in 3 months or 6 months, and it's so for me, I look for the candidates that they really want to be in the company, and you don't have to lie about it. It just be yourself, use common sense, prepare, right? And don't just get disheartened about if you don't get the job. Take that as an experience. Like some of the panelists have said, this is an experience that you will gain something good out of it. You will get better at it each interview you will take. Okay? And that each interviewer will come in from a different perspective. And then you have to understand your weaknesses and strength and take it from there. Sure.
Okay, very nice. Next question. We'll start with the admin table, so Brother Guzman can answer this first. What are the most surprising questions you ever received in your interviews that have caught you off guard, or questions that you have given your interviewees?
I'm going to use my Accenture example. I had no idea what I was signing up to. I thought, they're flying me into New York. It'd be an easy go, maybe a couple of hours, and probably out of there. Going in, then I realized, how organized they were. They flew in rest of the candidates from the U.S. and they had all of the hiring manager in one place. So we are sitting like in this side of the room. They introduce everything, the whole agenda for the day, and I'm thinking I'm not gonna make it. In an hour, I'm gonna be out of there, right? But each room that I went from the next to the next, I realized that they had seen something in me that interests them, that I did not see with other candidates. They probably did not see that, right? So I did not expect that process to take that long, plus a written assessment. So the questionnaire were what type of projects you have worked with, walk us through the whole process, what were your role, and then from there on they were asking some scenario type questions. So I have to kind of write down the whole thing. to explain that to them, like what my role was, how I helped contribute in the project. So that I got caught off guard. I couldn't, I didn't. It was my mistake that I did not ask the recruiter that what could I expect in the whole process. Had I asked that, I knew, probably would have known that they're gonna interview me, how they're gonna interview me, and if there is a written assessment, and I would have prepared for that. Right, so that was the, I would say that's something I got caught off guard.
I mean, these days, interviews, depending on the level of job that you're interviewing for, those challenging questions will vary in their posture for what the interviewer is looking for from you. So in the early days, after you get a little bit of experience and you start to interview, some challenging questions would be something like, give me an example of a project that you failed at, or something that didn't go, a program that didn't go as you had expected. And what they're really looking for in these is just to understand how you deal with failure.
Yeah.
And if somebody, and if you answer those questions, oh, I've never had any challenges. Everything I do is perfect. Everything I do is great. They go, okay, so this guy or girl either is not self-reflective or they blame others. So be very careful.
Yes.
If you're in the interview and get one of these questions, you start to say, well, my manager's an idiot. The guy wasn't paying attention, and yeah, the schedule it slipped, and it was his fault. So it's not my fault. Immediately you'll see the interviewer check out. You will be off. You'll be done with the interview. They'll just start pushing through to get it over really quickly. So with those kinds of questions, again, always be honest and humble. The answer will come to you. The answer will come to you. You will think of something that didn't go well, and what they're looking for is that, did you find what you could have done better, and did you implement it, did you do it, or what happened? If they find the blame game, it's over. If they find that you were introspective, you saw what you did that you could have done better next time. You didn't say, oh, I wasn't thorough enough, I wasn't, you don't want to have a systematic problem in your thinking, but you do want to identify what went wrong in the project and what you could have done better to make it not be a problem in the future. I think those were the first types of questions that used to throw me in the early days when we'd have an interview. I have to try to come up with something on the fly, and you have to be prepared for those types of questions. And as I said, even if you're not prepared and you don't have something, the skills as a Muslim that you have of being humble all the time in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in front of other people, never thinking that you're better than others, but also having your own confidence, and then being honest, because that will serve you as a leader. It'll serve you to be a better engineer. It'll serve you to be the better doctor, by always looking for the best answers for whatever problem you're trying to solve.
I think the worst question I ever got was a thickness on a steel plate, and I was like, dude, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I hate technical questions. I hated them because it's just, I was still in classes that we have never covered those material, and I couldn't answer them. But I think that's something what they're looking for too, is that I don't know and I want to learn. That's something a lot of interviews like to do. And one more thing I would like to just take a booklet with you and just write whatever they're asking to sometimes, because me and my friends did some interviews and then we wrote down the questions they asked. They usually ask the same thing every time, and you just gotta write it down and just be prepared for it. Once you're prepared for them, it's an easy game, man. You already have the answer before they ask the questions.
So I remember this so clearly because it was the worst question I've ever gotten. And it was in my first year. I was applying for an internship for, I don't even know how I made it this far, but it was for Estee Lauder, like global headquarters. And everybody there was like from I was putting myself down, but everyone there was like from Harvard, MIT. I don't know how I got picked in that bunch, but they did a group interview. God knows why they're doing group interviews. They couldn't do one-on-one, but this is, a huge corporation and they just wanted to get an intern in. And so they were doing verbal technical questions, and on my resume I wrote that I knew Java because I took my one intro class and I thought I was a hotshot and I knew all of Java. And the interviewer was like, okay, explain to me exactly how the JDK works. And I stared at him so blank face. I was like, I, coded like one little game, like I don't know. And so I think that's the biggest thing is being able to say that you don't know, that you do not make it up because you'll look even dumber. So being able to, have that like, I don't know if it's like pride, but being able to say that you don't know and you're, like you said, like willing to learn is so important because you look so much worse if you try to make up an answer, especially for a technical question like that. Like, how does anyone even start to explain what the Java development kit is in a group interview style too? It was awful. I would say that was really rough, but yeah, that like just having that like know that other people there too also don't know these things. Like especially if you're applying for an internship, like they don't expect you also to know everything. We just expect you to like be able to like speak from your heart.
Very nice answers. So you guys already kind of touched upon this question already, so you can briefly just reiterate what ways I should go down. So how did you best prepare for the interviews?
Yeah, like I said, there's soft and hard skills. You can do lead code, and that helps like calm the nerves down, especially like knowing what questions are going to be asked. Most technical interviews will use the same questions all over again. Personally, I think also knowing what the company is. I've had so many people interview for me, and they don't even know what I built. And so I understand you're probably applying 100 plus companies, and there's so many, and it's hard to keep up. But like maybe 5-10 minutes before, like check what the mission statement is. If you what they're building, like what you don't have to have used the app or whatever they're building. You don't have to have used it. Like a lot of like in hardware, especially how are you supposed to have that IoT with you? But just like knowing what they're creating and what they're building and what they're like working towards. I think the biggest thing also for me was like knowing their customer base, because that is how they're like aligned. So for the company that I work for, their customer base was making high-end cabinets for these billionaires, and so that was good to know going into the interview of like, okay, this is their customer base, this is what they're looking for in terms of the type of person they want to hire for the software role, because the software role also had like customer service in it. So it's good to know all that stuff. I mean, I know that's so easy to just like, it's a silly thing to say, to know which company that you're interviewing for, but unfortunately you're doing so many applications and interviews, sometimes you forget to check it out.
Going off that, just go to their websites. It's the easiest thing to do. Start from there and look up who's probably going to interview you, who emailed you, and go to LinkedIn and search them up and see what their projects are they're doing and what school they went to. If they went to UIC or whatever, UIC. So go to UIC, just go like talk to them about that. Even shoot them a message before that. You can always do that, or whatever school they went to. But I think preparing it is the best way to do it. And I do have a whole Word document that has a lot of questions. I can give it to you guys later after this. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I would say the most important thing to do to prepare is to try to put yourself in the head of the interviewer by doing some of the research that the brother and sister were mentioning to start. What you want to go in there thinking about is what are they trying to hire for? They're trying to hire for a specific position for their company, so you need to know something about their company. You need to know about some of the challenges that their products solve for their customers. And then you have to be able to convince the other side that you're interested in doing what they're doing. And you do that by having questions that are not surface level questions about the company, but deeper questions about some of their products, deeper questions about some of their customer base about their customer base, period, about some of the problems they're trying to solve for their customers. You want to think enough about their business space to be able to come up with good questions, because the interviewer is really trying to do two things and two things only. Mainly two things, in addition to assess your culture. So the culture is very important. We'll talk about that maybe in another question. But the two things that they really need to find out is this person really interested to do what we do at this company, or are they just trying to get their foot in the door and just get a job? And sometimes they have to choose among the best of the candidates that they have, and they might not find. But if they find somebody who's really interested in doing what they're doing, and someone who really has a good head on their shoulders, they might not know exactly how to do what I'm doing right now, and they might not know how to code in the language that I'm trying to interview for them now, or they might not know how to do wireless products. But if I find somebody who is really interested in doing what I want to do because of the questions that they asked me during the interview, and I determine that these people are really interested, and even with the information that I provide for them, they provide good questions to show they were listening, and they absorbed what I introduced to them, and then they demonstrate through the interview that they can answer questions. If they say that they did something as a project, like the sister was saying, and I asked them a question about that project, and they can explain it well, or they can answer other questions, or if I ask them a question and they can't answer it, they might ask me more questions to get more specific about what I'm after, and they start answering more clearly. If I find that combination, that person's got a 75% chance of coming in. And then it just becomes a matter of a culture fit. And that's when a lot of other people start coming in. But to prepare, you need to know, you need to be able to get to a place in your preparation where you know what it is that you have to do to convince them that you're interested in doing what they do.
So additionally, two points that I think I want to emphasize. Whatever you have on your resume, make sure you have a story behind it, and you know that, right? Don't forget about the experience, but as the example of Java came up, if you put any of the coursework, any of the stuff that you put it in, make sure that you understand the ins and out of that. Basic understanding of it, because as you're trying to start a career, they understand that they're not looking for an expert. They're looking for someone who knows the foundations. So make sure that you have, whatever you have on your resume, you know that like a back of your head. Second thing is one of my pet peeves, if you don't ask any question back at the end when they give you the opportunity, if you have any questions, some people, if they ask me, no, I'm good, I don't consider them. So make sure you ask them, prepare some questions based on whatever the business they have, based on what the next 5 years planning that they have, what problems they have, how they solve the problems, where do you fit in. Make sure you have a good set of questions that you need to ask them at the end, right? To make sure that you are best fit in with that company as well. Yeah.
Very nice advice. Okay, so the next question is, are there any specific mistakes or setbacks you've experienced that have taught you valuable lessons? You can start on the other end, so Brother Joel.
Okay, so mistakes, yeah. Like Accenture, right? I got in, I didn't like what I was doing. Very high pressure environment, traveling Monday morning, coming home Thursday night. Is that what I wanted to do? Yes, money was good, but at that time, I just jumped on that bandwagon, and I regretted it for 2 years that I was with them, because I did not want to be away from my family. I started a new family. I had a daughter, so I did not feel good when I was spending some of the nights in a hotel away from the family. Although I went through. The salary package was good, everything was good, but I just did not think through that how this will end up for me. But I corrected course. I came back. I accepted a position with a local company. I'm home every night. Although there were some long hours there as well, weekend work, because when you're part of that team, you know, I mean, for example, when you call Walgreens, there is an IVR, interactive voice response system that answer, and it makes you go through some menu. And I was part of the team that they were developing the back-end infrastructure and the menu options. Now imagine if that is not working and store is losing money. So you're under very high pressure to fix these problems. So yes, I did, you know, work after hours and weekends to, you know, do that, but that's part of the job, right? So you, if you do, if you really want to follow your passions, then you do this with all of your energy. You don't dread it that, oh, why did I accept this position and why I got into this career or whatnot, right? I mean, another thing is, you know, these trends that you see, that these, you know, go against the tide a little bit. Don't just follow the flow. You know, it's like, you know, if I'm developing something, if I'm the Facebook or the TikTok or any of the other things that they went against the tide to come up with a certain idea that nobody ever thought about. And you only do that when you have a clear head thinking and you have clear goals and vision. So if you don't know what you're doing and what you you know, what you want to achieve out of your life, then, you know, I think that needs to be set first. That's it.
Yeah, I would say maybe the biggest mistake that I had made career-wise, there's lots of them, but maybe the one that's most relevant, two maybe. One is, during those, remember I said focus and become an expert. So focus and become an expert in whatever your trade is. You know, it's qanil amal, like the Prophet ﷺ says. You know, we really have to focus and become excellent. But you should always keep your mind open to what else is happening in your domain. So I was so heavily focused on building my expertise that in my mind, I was belittling the other aspects of what happened. So I was like, oh, and product development, that's all that matters. You know, the sales team, anybody can sell, you know, anybody can do this. It's like, what do these guys know? But little did I know that these guys are actually the big guys in the company. They're the ones who, if they're not out there selling, if they don't know how to convince other people to buy what it is that I'm trying to make, I wouldn't have a job. If it wasn't for the product managers who were figuring out what products do we develop, then we would not know what the market is asking for. I mean, as engineers, we could be sitting in the lab developing a product that works so well in the lab, but nobody wants it. So what good would it do? So that first, the problem that I had was not understanding how important everyone in the ecosystem is for that business. It's not just engineering, because I was an engineer. It's not just the engineering who is important, but everybody in the ecosystem is important. Everyone is valuable, everyone is smart, and everyone is critical for us to be successful. The second one I would say is, if you are unhappy in a job, in a role, don't stay. Find something that makes you happy. If you're unhappy with the group, if you're unhappy with the manager, if you're unhappy with the type of product, if you're unhappy with that industry. I almost left engineering after about 6 years because I thought I was very heavily involved in community work, and I almost left to do full-time community work because I thought that's what would make me happiest. I was a little bit unhappy with my manager, a little bit unhappy with the type of work that we were doing, but I switched groups and became happier with the work, and I hated the new manager. But I decided, like, I'm gonna start taking matters into my own hands. So the mistake I initially made was that I was waiting for a manager to help me find how to be happy. I was waiting for the manager to kind of help my career be successful. So the mistake that was made there was that you are in charge of your own career, you are in charge of your own happiness, you are in charge of your own success. And until you realize that, until I realized that I was a little bit miserable and thought I needed to leave the industry, but I just needed to find a position, and I wrote it down. I keep telling my son, it was like the most important part of that lesson that I got from it is that the minute I wrote down what it is that I wanted, that's when it suddenly, subhanAllah, it starts appearing. I mean, I know it sounds like magic and people, say all these weird things about it, but it's absolutely true, and it's because you start seeing the things that you know you want. So I started seeing suddenly I knew this manager forever, but I said I wanted to be a communication systems expert, is what I wanted. I had done transmitters, I had done receivers, I had done synthesizers, and I had done antennas and base station full cabinets. But I didn't know where these requirements come from. Who's the one who says that the antenna has to have this directivity? We'd get all these requirements from these product managers, like, I'm great at designing it, but I don't know where these requirements came from. So I said, I want to be the guy who understands the whole communication system. So the minute I wrote it down, what I wanted, the people that I started talking to, it started clicking. Hey, I should talk to this person and see if he has a position in his group, because I heard he did, and it might fit my career.
I mean, this started my career, so I haven't really made I made mistakes every day at work, but alhamdulillah, I'm a
We all
good
do.
manager. Yeah. Alhamdulillah, I'm a good manager that teaches me well. I mean, doesn't get mad about making mistakes. I have a couple of people that got mad because I made a couple mistakes, and they didn't realize I was new, so they just step back and they were like, "Oh, my bad, bro. I didn't mean to get mad at you." And that was kind of nice, because sometimes you have to make mistakes to learn that thing, and make mistakes now so you can make greater mistakes later. So
Get good at it.
Get good at it, yeah. But alhamdulillah, I'm glad whatever mistakes I made in college, they have taught me a lot, especially time management. I was pretty bad at doing homework because of these guys. But alhamdulillah, I always just learn from the mistakes you learn, and I think that's the best thing you can do with mistakes.
Yeah, so I have two things. I think the first is definitely taking what you've learned from classes and what you like in classes and using that in the real world. I found out that I love theoretical, abstract math, and then you put that in the real world, and I hated it. I did not enjoy it at all. I was miserable, and so I realized that I liked the research aspect of it, and I didn't like it in industry. So definitely, while you are, in undergrad, or even afterwards, try out different things. If you're not set to this job for the rest of your life, you do not need to stay at the first job you're at for decades, okay? You can move around. That gives you a lot of autonomy since you are in tech, to be able to do that. And then, like the other brothers were saying, definitely be somewhere that you're happy. And if you're financially able to leave places that you aren't or you are unhappy with, because you don't understand how much of a cycle you are in, in that 9 to 5, and you're always just, okay, maybe today is a better day, maybe today, you wake up every morning, it's maybe this day will be better, and it will never get better. And yes, the paycheck is amazing, and I stayed 6 months past the day I figured out in January of last year, I do not want to be here, and I left in October. And so you can only imagine how miserable those 8 months were for me. So and I had the ability to leave, but I didn't want to, because I thought that if you leave, you can never enter the market again. And that's false. I just want to say that too. If you leave the industry, you're still you guys are very young. Everybody's looking for young talent, so don't worry about that. Yes, it is much harder right now to get a job than it was, in the past years, I will say. But, whatever is written in your fate, you will get it. You guys you're working hard, Allah will give you what you deserve, and I think that's very important. So it is very small thing to think about, of course I'm gonna work work for a job that makes me happy. But it's like, when you're making so much money, you forget about that. You're already in a cycle, you don't want to leave, and it also feels like, there's no, you don't know what's next for you, and that's very, very scary, and that's why a lot of people don't leave their jobs, because they don't want that uncertainty of like, I don't know where I'm going to be next, and I don't know how long I'm going to wait till I get the next job, and so I will say, like, do what's best for you with your condition, your financial conditions, your where you are in life in terms of, it personally. I think all of those things play a factor, but remember about yourself too. Like, yes, everything about today is about your career, but you have to remember yourself too, that you matter, your mental health matters, your emotional health matters, all of that, physical, and you forget that once you get stuck in a corporate cycle.
A very nice segue to my next question. I'm gonna skip this one. So it can be difficult to find jobs in Berkeley. Do you have any advice on that? We can start with Brother Joel.
Yeah, so look, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written the risk for you, the effort is on your part. You'll get it, but you have to make sure that you do your effort, right? Don't worry about the market trends or whatnot. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Razik, then He's the one who will provide. You have to do your utmost best to do it. And I got laid off in .com after .com, but I was able to find a job. That there is a risk written for you. You have to seek it, right? So do your best. Don't worry about the trends, recession, this, that doesn't really matter. If there is a job out there for you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written that for you, the effort is on your part. Make sure you do everything you can to do that. The rest, leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you'll find it. Joe?
Yeah, so, I've hired hardware, software, firmware, test engineers, and sometimes we can't find them fast enough. And then sometimes we're shrinking in the different companies. And so every period is a little bit different, but when I needed to find a job, or a friend had a son or a daughter that needed to find a job, the personal networks make a huge difference. And there's nothing wrong with asking an uncle, a brother, a dad, mom, anyone who has connections in places. You have to be able to fulfill the responsibilities of the job, but there's absolutely no shame in getting personal help, getting a personal foot in the door to help you get into an interview. The rest is up to you at that time. So I would say LinkedIn is an extremely valuable tool, as the brother was saying earlier, sometimes the companies, all companies go through different types of phases. Sometimes we hire recruiters and we pay them a lot of money. The recruiter can get paid 30% of your first year's salary when you get hired. And some companies get tired of paying that. If they hire enough, they hire their own recruiter, and that recruiter works for them full time, so that they're not paying $1 million a year in recruiting fees. And so a lot of recruiters, the way they do it, when we don't have a recruiter the way we do it, LinkedIn is a huge tool that we use, and we scan and look for people who we think would be interested to do what we do, and we think that they have the background to do the background to learn to do what we do. And so in your LinkedIn, make sure you are staying relevant, make sure you are posting, make sure you are connecting with people who are similar in interest with what you're looking for. Reach out and connect with me. If you're an electrical engineer, if you're an engineer, connect with me. You can see some of my connections. We can figure out, what are you looking for? Maybe I know somebody. I recently helped a brother who was looking for a job. He got laid off, and I knew a lot of other brothers. We have a deep connection with the Motorola crew that we used to be, where we used to pray Jummah together. We'd have 100 people in a conference room for a Jummah prayer. And so when someone's looking for a job, you reach out, hey, who's got jobs in their companies? I've got a dude who just got laid off. He's really good. He's doing machine learning. You're not doing anything wrong. If the person is a good person, you want to recommend them, or if they're new and they're looking for new people, let's be honest. Like the sister and brother said, is like if you're new, the recruiter knows you don't know what you're doing. You're a student. You just finished school. I knew nothing. I had zero confidence when I finished undergrad because I knew I couldn't apply any of this stuff. Yeah, I finished the classes, but I couldn't design a real circuit. It was still theoretical to me. And we designed it in the lab, and we tested it in the lab, but I didn't really know when to choose this circuit versus that circuit. I had no clue. And when I did my master's degree, I gained more confidence, but not in the circuit still. It was wave propagation and antennas. Long story short to say is that the companies know you have no practical experience. And the only thing they're really looking for to see that you had an internship, what they're really after is to say that, hey, this person knows how to work with other people. And they were able to finish projects with other people. They already know you're smart because of your grades if they looked at your transcripts. So use your networks through LinkedIn, use your family networks, use your friend networks, use your school networks, as much as you possibly can. When the market's hot, they'll find you. When the market's not hot, you gotta go out and find them. This might be a period of time where there's a little bit of shrinkage in the market with respect to jobs in the tech space, but it's not a massive shrinkage. It's just a small shrinkage. So you have to do just a little bit better of a search through your LinkedIn and your other connections.
Just going off that, big thing is networking for sure. I took a business class here, and that's all they focus on is networking. That's all they care about. Yeah, that's how most business people get their jobs, with networking. So that's one thing. And if you want a job, like look in the local areas. Like not everyone's gonna get a job at Tesla or Amazon. You gotta look in the local areas and go to their websites. Go to their because sometimes they don't post it on LinkedIn and all these bigger websites. So go to their websites. A lot of websites have them, and you can reach out to them with that. And one thing we have is Handshake, guys. Use Handshake like crazy. Just use it. If you're not even active on it, get active on it, because I'm pretty sure Career Fair uses Handshake. So do that, because I got my job today like from Handshake, and I got reached out to, so which is nice. You can get reached out from there. And don't get sad about it, man. There's a lot of people that don't have jobs. There's a lot of people that have offers stacked up. I gave a lot of interviews, and I was so pissed, guys. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It was so bad that I graduated. All my friends have jobs. I mean, you feel like there's nothing there. But alhamdulillah, after that period, I got 2 job offers. I mean, Allah does things out of anything, So now you have 2 of them. And one more thing, istikhara is awesome, y'all. do that. I mean, I made that decision with that, and alhamdulillah, you'll get it. And just don't lose hope. That's the best thing. And one more thing I would say is get your friends together too. If it doesn't work out, I know a couple people that didn't work out, they started their own company. And they wrote that, and if the company didn't work out, they still had that in their resume. So, I mean, that's a good experience already right there. So, yeah.
Yeah, to segue, I built my own company, so I would say definitely do that. It's a lot of fun, especially if you're doing it with your friends. I mean, I don't recommend doing it with your really close friends, because doing business with your really close friends is kind of a yikes. But it's really fun. I mean, and it can be sustainable, especially if you're working. So I do a social for-profit impact-based company. It's so fulfilling to do a job like that, and being able to get paid for that too is awesome. And there's so many aspects of this world that just can have tech in it. Like everything I think in this world has tech related to it right now. So there's so much you can do with it, and you have all this education behind you. You can honestly do anything. The other thing I want to mention too is figuring out the timing of when you apply is very important. So if you're applying towards very low and no one's trying to recruit, kind of like Q2, like summer area, like no one's really trying to hire a full-time, you probably won't get one. Q1 and end of like Q4 is when they like are trying very hard to get those full-time offers, so making sure you're applying for the right season. I'd say like, yeah, continuously, like, you know, if you're trying to get one, keep going, but really putting in those efforts at the beginning of like Q1, because that's when the jobs, like most companies, they do their annual budgets, they figure out how many new workers that they want to hire, and then they put it out on the job sites. But yeah, as the other brothers were saying, especially like networking too is very important. Referrals can go a very, very long way. And they can even get you out of interviews too sometimes, at least that's how it's gone for me. So you use the people that, you know, around you, and also don't have shame in saying, you know, I don't have a job or I got laid off or whatever it may be. Of like, I know people are very like, you know, they don't want to say it out loud, like I don't have a job right now because it's very hard and it's a personal thing, but I will say like, once you put yourself out there, like something, you know, the universe will give you something back. So I will say like, you never know who you're talking to, like what opportunity you will have. So definitely, you know, do that.
I want to add one more thing. There's companies out there that are making things that you don't even know about. I mean, I didn't know I was going to be working for a super company. Like, they're making stuff. I know I gave an interview for one that made solar pans, cooking with solar stuff. Like, bro, but I'm still giving the interview, and you know, you get to learn more stuff about that. And so yeah, look out for the smaller companies, man. They're kind of worth it.
Let me add just one other point as well, is that something the sister said triggered another memory. You never know who you're talking to. So when you're working with one job, you'll always be working with other companies. So like when you're working, let's say I was working for Motorola, but we're buying semiconductors from another company, or we're selling our products to another company. Those relationships, the two jobs that I switched to were because of a relationship of working with someone else while I was at this other company, or while I was with another group. So that's why I'm saying always be on your Muslim behavior. Always be your honest, you know, the integrity, the extra effort, you know, just the diligence that you put into your job. People will remember you. And if they have something, they'll reach out to you, or if you want something, they'll give you a job on the spot because of the interaction they had with you from a previous experience.
Very nice. I think we can have time for one more question before we break. Okay. So some of you are recruiters, and you can still answer it. What sets some candidates apart from others? Actually, you can start.
Sure, I can start. In terms of behavioral, definitely speaking from your heart. You can tell when someone's memorized an answer, or it's an answer that you know that they like want to hear. Like I work for, you know, deaf children and giving them accessibility to education, and I can hear a scripted answer from a mile away. And so I think, just like, you know, speaking from your heart, it really does go to show. Like, I think I just interviewed someone last week, and I asked them, you know, like, what was, you know, a difficult like time in your life, and how did you overcome it? And at first I saw her like brain want to answer with like the very, you know, scripted answer, and then she like sat back for a second, and she, you know, started telling me her whole story about her friend who is depressed, which I don't recommend trauma dumping, but it was still like, you know, she sat down, she thought about the question, and was like telling me from her like honest truth of like, okay, this was a difficult time, and this is how I overcame it. And I did learn a lot of like how she communicates with people, and even if it is, you know, like a personal story, it was like, it meant a lot to me that she did, you know, not just say the very generic standard answer. And yeah, like definitely talk about your experiences, and you know, like yes, I go off of what's on your resume, but you know, speak more than that. You know, there's more to you than just your resume, right? You're not just, you know, a degree, or just like, you know, a couple projects that are on there. You're more. There's, like you were saying, you have to sell your personality. We're looking for, you know, culture fit, that, you know, you can fit up with the people that are working for me. And your the biggest thing too that I'm looking for is morals. I will say not all companies are looking for good morals, but I am looking for good morals. So you can tell that through the interview, how they, you know, carry themselves and how they answer questions. And yeah, I think on a technical side, in terms of like coding interviews, I don't have much to say on what sets you apart. I've seen, you know, great variation of different answers. You can tell when someone memorized the leak code answer, I will say that, because they will start coding before I even finish reading the question. So please don't do that. Even if you know the question, like pretend, do something. So, but yeah, on the technical side, I don't have too much to say of what can set you apart in those technical interviews, but in the behavioral, that's, you know, I think that's definitely the time for you to shine.
I mean, I'm not a recruiter, but I do like this question because I want to know this answer too. Because I hated when I did an interview and someone else got the job. They didn't even reply me with an email, bro. Like, why did you not pick me? That's the worst feeling, man. Why did you not pick me? But you know, you gotta live with that sometimes. But yeah, that's something I need to make sure you guys answer.
You know, on that note, brother, there's nothing wrong with reaching back out to the recruiter or to the hiring manager for that position and ask them for some feedback. Some of them are really gracious and they'll give you some honest feedback. Others, they won't respond. Like I said, there's some companies out there, and unfortunately I was part of a few in the past, where the hiring manager just would, you know, not even respond back to the person who did the interview. They have to wait weeks and they don't hear anything. Some companies are very disorganized like that, but you can get some good feedback from some of these people that you can learn from. You know, yeah, on the technical side, you know, whether, like I said, regardless of the discipline, if you show that you are capable of learning, I've never chosen someone strictly because they knew a subject more deeply than someone else knew it, unless all else was equal. And so, but certainly having somebody who you think communicates well, someone who is an honest broker, someone who, depending on the type of position, if you're looking for a leader, there are so many profile systems out there to figure out what is your culture. And we've been, like in the company that I'm at now, we've been using that on a consistent basis to understand how this person's gonna fit into our organization. And so if I'm looking for someone who's a leader, they would have more of those A personality types. So if you're interviewing for a job, like the brother and sister was saying before, sometimes the hiring manager will be kind of turned off because you're an A-type personality. But another company might be like, oh my God, we found an A-type personality person, finally. Let's bring this person in. And I don't care what he knows, we'll teach him, because this person is going to be a leader in our company. So don't be afraid of showing who you are, but always, again, you know, stay that humble person and communicate very clearly. If you don't understand the question, if you want clarity, ask for it. No one's gonna think, oh my God, you weren't listening. You know, asking for clarity means that you're thinking deeply, and it means you're really paying attention.
I got a quick answer, so I'll keep it brief here. I think what sets you apart is the honesty, your own personality, individualism, right? So be honest about your answers. You have something to your advantage, which is that you are inexperienced, yes, but you're less than someone who's asking for a salary which is a couple of years or 5 years or whatnot. So that is to your advantage, right? They're looking into you because there are certain budget constraints and stuff like that. What they want to get out of this is that they want to make sure that you're worth the investment in time to train someone. And if you just be honest about the questions, you know, you should be fine then. Yeah.
Maybe just one other point for clarity. Yeah, so if you don't know an answer, it's okay again to ask a question about that question that they're asking, even if it's not just clarification, but you can ask a follow-up question to that so that you can answer something about that topic. That you might not, like, maybe they're asking you, how would you go about designing an antenna for an indoor Wi-Fi system? how would you design that antenna? You might not know anything about how to start designing that antenna, but you can ask some intelligent questions that would show that, hey, you have a general concept. You might not remember the details, but you have the general concept of what's required to design an antenna, and then you can gain some points that way.
Jazakallah khair for the very insightful answers. So for now, we will break for Usher, and then after we will have some time for open Q&A, so if you have questions, ask it then, and feel free to come up